everybody, my name is Infiniti, aka Artsy Cheetos, and I am the face and the voice behind all the content under Infiniti Crafting Co. Today I am here to bring you day 5 of Vlogust, where the day is going. They're blurring together on me. So, today's topic is Crochet Horror Stories Part 2, also known as Why Don't You Do Commissions? Like I said in a previous video, there's nothing wrong with doing custom work or commissions with your crafts. I did it for most of the time while I was in college, and I only recently started moving my stuff online and actually proactively pursuing to sell my things online. But let's talk up to the actual reasons why I started doing that in the first place. So the thing is, doing custom work for other people is very fickle. And I mean, it's one thing when you're doing it for free out of love for somebody else, but then there's another thing when you do it expecting to get paid in full for your project, for your work and your time, and then you have people to essentially flake on you. These are not fond memories, but I laugh at them now because as I have gone through the years, continuing to make things or whatever, they've just been learning experiences. And like I said, they have led me to be at this point now where I am developing my own website and where I currently sell on Etsy. So, I mean, I think the very first outside experience I had was at this learning center that I was attending way back in, was that 2016? 2016? Yeah, 2016. And I had this lady, she's like, "Oh, you crochet, that's so cool," you know how people come and like gas you up and try to be really complimentary, especially if they want you to make them something. So she's, applauded me and all that, and she's like, "Oh, I would love a throw blanket." I'm like, okay. And at the time, yarn was much cheaper than it is now. It was much cheaper than it is now. And so I was like, okay, $35. She wanted it in teal and purple. I used the red heart teal, and I used the red heart, I think it's called amethyst, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember. I think it's amethyst. Anyway, because I thought they were really bold, really deep colors. I thought it was a good combination. She wanted teal and purple. Perfect. And she actually liked the blanket. I did a chevron blanket. I did it in single crochets and double crochets. And I was pretty pleased with it. And so by the time I got back around to completing it and actually presenting it, she's like, "Ooh, $35? That's a little expensive." And I'm like, I just spent the last 2 weeks making this. But at the time, again, that fresh hopefulness, I was just like, okay, okay. And like the situation, it did upset me quite a bit because I'm like, okay, if you weren't going to have the money, then why didn't you just say so in the first place? There would have been nothing wrong with that. I could have stopped it. I could have spent my time doing something else. So that was like burn number 1. Let me see. I think it's in my Etsy store. This is a situation that was like years later. That blanket, that color block blanket in my Etsy shop right now. This guy at the same center, I really should have caught on over the years, but anyway, the same guy at the center, different guy. It was a guy at the center. He's like, "Oh, you know what? I want a blanket that'll fit a large bed." And then he changed it and he's like, "I want a blanket that'll pretty much spread over the couch." I'm like, okay, cool. So the thing ended up being, what, 44 something inches by 40. It was, fairly sizable. It's decent enough to swaddle up in, watch a movie on the couch, whatever. And so by the time that I came back around, and I think I was only going to charge $75 for it at that point, and I was like, okay, by the time I got back around to it, then the guy started dipping and avoiding me, and I'm like, there was no need for that, you know, when it came time to finish the project or whatever. And that was frustrating because they were like always running around bolstering like, oh yeah, you know what, I'm so blessed and all that. And then like you turned around and kind of screwed me over essentially. That was really interesting. I did not appreciate that either. And you know, I think I handle things pretty well, relatively well. I think I don't really flare up with my temper when people do that. I mean, what are you gonna do? So let's see, another horror story was the time, I think I mentioned this in what, Vlogust, I don't know, a couple days ago. So there were these two ladies at the same center. Again, I should have learned my lesson. Two ladies, same center. One lady was like, ooh, at the price tag, and then when I came around to deliver, they had all kinds of nitpicky things to say about the project after it was completed, and they asked if I could revise it. Where was I? My phone rang. I think I was at the part where the lady was like, ooh, with the price thing, because I'm like, she wanted this scarf and hat set out of chenille yarn. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And she liked the cable stitches that I was doing on a different project at that time, so that was horrifying for my hands. Anyway, so I went about doing both the hat and the scarf for that, with that design. And you know, like I said, she came back around. She's like, oh, really nitpicky. And I'm just like, you know what? It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. She wasn't necessarily rude about it, but just like, forget it. And so, mind you, I gave people their invoices ahead of time, because like, you know, maybe you don't have your money, all the money up front or whatever. That gives you time to prepare. It gives me time to make things and turn them out or whatever, since I was making things to order. So yeah, she had the invoice for a while. She had it for over a week, and she's like, oh, no rush on it or whatever, but you know, I just wanted to get it up my hair. And I was like, okay. And like, again, with the little minuscule thing she was nitpicking about, you can kind of tell she was trying to get out of paying my price. I don't even remember what I was trying to charge for it at that point, but that yarn is not cheap. That yarn was never cheap. And so, you know, doing that, like I said, that rubbed me the wrong way. So I just kind of was like, okay, you know what? Forget this. Forget this. What was the other one? The other lady. Oh my god. And I've looked through my inventory totes last night, and I was looking for a specific headband because my grandmother's like, oh, you made this thing and I like it. Anyway, it's beside the point. I was looking through it, and I realized that I legitimately have everything from the other lady's order. Now, she had this invoice for 3 weeks because I gave it to her at the same time I gave the other lady an invoice, and so she had time to accumulate or whatever. This lady wanted like 6 items made. Half of them, if not 4 of the items, were in black. And then I designed headbands, custom headbands. I designed them, wrote patterns for in this order. And then, like I said, I'm going to talk about it in a future video on how I price my things. But anytime I have an order, or, you know, a big order, and they're demanding black yarn, I do a little upcharge. You know, makes my eyes feel better. That little upcharge. Because black, if you don't crochet or knit, you don't like really knitting or crocheting with black. It's kind of difficult on the eyes, especially if you don't have proper lighting. So, you know, me sitting up, spending my time, energy, and materials, and working in black, and trying to be, what would I call that? Timely. Alright, so yeah, I thought it was fair to charge $100 for that. Now, if I were going strictly, like, and completely off of Etsy prices, it would have been a little bit more than that. But considering I didn't have to do the shipping, and I didn't have to think about all the extra fees or whatever, it was cash, I was like, okay, you know what? I set, I guess, a relatively low bar. I say relative, like, by my today standards. But anyway, so that was a thing, and I was greatly disappointed. And again, you know, it's something when you spend all your hard work, time, and energy for a commission order, and then you have the person to turn around and be like, well, I have a friend that could have made this. And I'm thinking to myself the entire time, why didn't you have your friend to make it? You know, but anyway, that's beside the point. That situation was the last time I told myself after that point, never again will I do a custom order. And you know what? It's been a little over a year. Yeah, a little over a year, almost 2 years now, and I have not done a custom order for anybody, and I don't feel bad about it. Again, if you're looking into trying to sell your work online, I would say, number one, know your worth. Know your worth. If you're going to do in-person commissions, know your worth. But also get your money up front. Get a non-refundable deposit put down. Guard yourself, because people are so fickle and flaky when it comes to handmade things. And like I said in a previous video, you cannot go to Walmart, you can't go to any established like retail store and go in there and be like, you know what, I don't want to pay $20 for this item, could you like lower it a little bit? You can't do that. So why would you do that to somebody who's just trying to like get by? So anyway, I digress again. What was this other one? Oh my god, this one. I want to know, I think I have a picture of me working on the center part of it. This guy from school? This guy from school, older gentleman, wanted to commission something for his mother's birthday. This project had me heated. I was angry for a while because it was completely custom. You guys might be familiar with that wait, no, is it Entrelac? I might be pronouncing that wrong. Anyway, the like 3D block blanket type deal. The guy wanted something like that as a background in black, gray, and white. Then he wanted this navy and green circle in the center and wanted me to put a logo, which was hard to do. Wanted me to put a logo in it for some high school, I think in either Louisiana or Kentucky. I can't remember now. I was adamant about pushing that out of my head because I was so peeved. Gave me $30 up front, which I was thinking materials, okay? I ended up going over on the materials, so I ended up in red. I never changed my price. My total price was like, again, $60, $75, somewhere in there. Anyway, got the materials, had to go back to Michael's, had to get more materials, all that fun stuff. And I made this thing out of the Patton's classic wool thing. He was supposed to go get it framed and all that. It's for his mom's birthday. I'm like, okay, cool. When I got done, and I was struggling with this project so bad, and that, I remember doing that, it was during my first semester when I first started working. I was taking chemistry, math, history, and psychology. It was human growth and development. Okay, there we go. So I was taking those 4 classes. It was 14 credit hours. I just started working. It was during crunch time almost, I think, and I was working on this, and then I was like having issues with the design, and I was just like, you know what, can I do this instead? And you're just like, no, I want it exactly like this. And you know, that's something that you have to contend with when you're doing any kind of custom work. So I mean, but anyway, did all that. I tell him his order's ready for pickup, let him come pick it up. This man's like, oh, I thought the $30 was the overall charge. And I'm thinking to myself, I spent a good solid $45 on this thing. Again, the patterns, those pattern wools things are not inexpensive skeins of yarn. And I love the texture of them. So I was happy to work with it. But at the same time, why would you do that? Somebody who I spent a month and a half, because he never got his design together up until a month and a half before he needed a thing done. And I was just like, okay. And that angered me. That honestly made me upset. I was just like, I had to let it go. I didn't keep it. I just let him have it. I'm like, goodbye. Get out my face. And I never saw him again. I was like, thank God. That was so bad. That was so terrible. And after that, you know, each time I think I learned a little bit more. Like I said, that initial greenness when you're just out there and you're hopeful and you think you're going to be supported and all that can be a trip. Some people learn quicker than others. I think, you know, overall I just ended up being too nice for the most part. And for a while there I was just trying to figure out my worth, and I just didn't realize all the things that I know now. Hindsight is 20/20. But anyway, so those are some of my horror stories. I'm pretty sure there are some other instances that were probably not as terrible as these large-scale projects that I have created or had created over that time frame and then got burned over. Now, like I said, I was able at some point to have at least one consistent person who would get stuff from me year-round. That was great. She would always pay me. Wonderful. That is always wonderful. But for the rest of them, like, unless I trust you, I'm not making, I'm not doing any custom work, talking about commissions, because it's just too much of a headache. It's so much of a headache. And, you know, again, I don't want to deter people from going about trying to sell their crafts or, you know, become an entrepreneur based around their crafts. That's not my MO at all. I'm just letting you guys know there are people out there who, there are people out there who just genuinely, I guess they don't understand the amount of effort, the labor behind crafting. I don't know, because again, these are the same types of people who would go out and they would either support another small business and actually pay their prices, or they would go out and of course just buy their things from a retailer that, you know, they can't haggle with. So it's like, if you would do that, don't come haggling with me because you realize I'm just one person. That's not okay. But I think that happens a lot, and it's one of those things where you live, you learn type deals. So I mean, you know, what can I say? They were growing experiences, but again, experiences that I personally would not want to revisit ever again, ever. Because again, on the purchaser side, you know, they're like, oh, well, you know, it all's well that ends well. But on the crafter side, again, you know, we're over here full of emotion because 1, we wasted all of our time. 2, we wasted all of our money. 3, now we're stuck with inventory that, you know, takes forever to get rid of. Like I said, I still have stuff from almost 2 years ago that I'm still trying to get rid of. And I'm just like, you know what? So beware. Just beware. That's all. Know your worth. Set your boundaries. Set your standards. And just make happily. You know, that's basically it. Don't be fooled by people or flaky people. Like, don't start working until they give you that deposit. And usually I would say my deposits consist of my materials, my estimated material cost. And then, like I said, if they want something in black, there's a little upcharge for that because my eyes need to feel compensated for working through all that yarn and whatnot. So, I mean, I hope today's story time was informative. I don't know about entertaining, but informative in the least. If you have additional questions, don't forget to send them my way. I will be doing these videos for the entire month of August. So, like I said, send me your questions. I love community engagement. If you're watching this from Instagram, don't forget to head back to my profile. Give me a follow. I'll be doing these videos every day this month. You're not going to want to miss them. If you're on YouTube and you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that for me. Give this video a like because that's how YouTube recommends my content across the web. You can leave your questions in the comment section down below. If you're on Facebook or Instagram watching this, you can send me a DM. I will get to the questions as soon as possible and trying to figure out how I want to integrate them within my schedule. I do have a few topics that I'll be covering, like I said, for the rest of the month, but I love answering community questions. Also, I want to make mention I am probably behind on comments for whatever odd reason, around midnight when I am at my prime making hour, my internet has been going down for the last 2 days at midnight and staying off for hours. I need to call them, be like, hey, what's up? Because that's not okay. I'm trying to respond to people and it ain't working, so I'm gonna look into that. So I'm sorry if my responses are a little delayed or if I'm just hearting things at this point, because I don't know what's going on. Who knows? But anyway, until tomorrow, happy making.